Well, I'm a much better man than the one sitting there. Oh yeah.
First off, at the top of S tier, Dapperbluke. This unit is by far the best Ruins unit, and it's not even close. He's not very expensive, does good damage, has lots of range, is a heal unit, and has a very low cooldown. One of the best in the game. You obtain him by rolling Napstablook in the Ruins summons, then by getting a lucky Dapper Hat drop from playing Pacifist Ruins. Once you have both of these, you can then go and evolve Napstablook into Dapperbluke. Speaking of Napstablook, he's actually the only unit I forgot to add on this tier list, so I'm going to get him out of the way. I'd put him high B tier, maybe low A tier above Whimsun at best. He's not really all that good until you evolve him into Dapperbluke. Next on the tier list in the middle of S tier, Parsnick. Parsnick actually has a higher DPS than Dapperbluke, but he's more expensive and lacks the range Dapperbluke has. He definitely makes up for this with his rather huge AoE attack in his final upgrade. However, he is a ground unit that doesn't become hybrid until you upgrade him near his last upgrade. You obtain him by getting him in a rare drop in Ruins Genocide. Last in S tier, Moldessa. Moldessa is the earliest slow unit you can get your hands on. They don't do great damage, only has decent range, they can only hit ground enemies, and their attack is only single target. However, they're fairly easy to get your hands on early, and slow helps a lot in this game. You get Moldessa by pulling Mold Small from the Ruins summons, and going down into the core to do the Ruins Gauntlet to get the tokens to buy Moldessa's face. Once you have both of these, you can evolve Mold Small into Moldessa. In high A tier sits My Gospel. He's a good alternative to Dapperbluke, but just isn't as good. Compared to Dapperbluke, he has a higher DPS and has a small AoE attack. However, his range is pretty small, especially for a heal unit, and he costs more. I would 100% use him if I pulled a Mygosp before a Napstablook though. You obtain him by pulling a Mygosp in the Ruins summons, then going into the Ruins Gauntlet and getting enough tokens to buy the Clown Mask. Once you have these two, you can evolve the Mygosp into a Mygospel. Next on A tier is Toriel. Toriel does good damage, but she's kind of expensive and doesn't get any fire damage, the thing that makes her actually good, until her last upgrade. She has a line AoE attack, which is nice, but she can only attack ground enemies. She's a little lackluster for an ultra rare, but she isn't terrible. You obtain her by pulling her from the Ruins summons. Next is Whimsun. Now, I'm sure you're wondering why I put one of the starter units so high up, and honestly, I probably should have moved them to high B tier at best, but I already made the tier list and don't feel like changing it. For a starter unit, Whimsun is surprisingly good. They have good range, okay damage, is very cheap, and are a heal unit. For some of my runs, this thing was my best heal unit going into Snowdin, because I was simply that unlucky with the rolls. Whimsun can actually take care of a lot of the flying enemies pretty well in the Ruins and Snowdin. You just need a good ground unit for the tougher enemies as their damage isn't the greatest. You obtain Whimsun from the Ruins summons, but also start with one at the beginning of the game. Next, the only B tier, Mygosp. Mygosp is okay, I guess. They're much more useful evolved into Mygospel, but they're not a terrible buffer. Mygosp buffs every unit in its range by 10% damage, and it does stack with friends if they have Mygosps as well. You obtain Mygosp from the Ruins summons. The only unit on the C tier, Flowey. Flowey is just not good. He's sort of expensive and doesn't really have enough damage to make up for his price. He's an okay hybrid unit if you have the gold for him though. You obtain Flowey as a rare drop from neutral runs in the Ruins. On the top of D tier, Vegetoid. He's in the same boat as Flowey. He's not as expensive, but he just doesn't do nearly enough damage to actually be useful. He is a hybrid though, and not the worst thing in the world if you really want to use him. You obtain him from the Ruins summons. Next in D tier is Frogget. Frogget is fairly cheap and has a decent AoE attack, but the other starter you get is just so much better in almost every way. It has low damage, low range, and can't even attack flying enemies. You obtain it through the Ruin Summons. You also start with one. First on the E tier is Luke's. Luke's is a little costly for such low damage. He can't attack flying enemies and he has a fairly long cooldown. You obtain him from the Ruin Summons. Next on E tier is the Dummy. The Dummy is Mygosp, but worse in just about every way. It buffs every unit in its range with a 5% damage buff and a 5% range buff. With Mygosp in the picture, there's just no reason to ever use this thing, period. You obtain it from a rare pacifist drop in the Ruins. Last in E tier is Maltzmaul. This is a full AoE unit with very little range, small damage, and costs way too much for what it gives you. Dear God, please never use this thing. You obtain it from the Ruin Summons. And the last Ruins unit, the Rock. This unit is so bad I didn't even bother to put it on my tier list. It is nothing but a joke. Please do not use this thing.